Hi, I'm Simon from Outdoor Arts, from 101 Outdoor Arts. I'm a white 50-year-old male with glasses and short, dark but greying hair. I just wanted to thank everyone for staying with us to our closing session. And it's just a reminder that if you need captions, just click on the CC button in the bottom right of the screen. The thing that I wanted to focus on here is the wonderful work that our scribing artist, Temujen Gunawardena, has been doing throughout the entire conference, drawing the sessions live to provide a fantastic visual record of the event. So coming up next, it's our chance to watch these slides together and to recap on some of the fascinating conversations and themes that have emerged over the last couple of days.
illustrations. Thank you, Temujen. I'm Christina. I'm senior producer at The Place. I'm a white woman in my late 30s with short brown hair, and I'm wearing a white blouse today, and I use the pronouns she and her. So for this final session, we have the opportunity to hear again from choreographer, director, and performer Rosemary Lee. Rosemary opened the symposium yesterday with a keynote which centered care and the anarchic qualities of dancing outdoors. Rosemary's been listening to all the sessions, and I'm going to hand back to her to offer some observations and thoughts for us to all hold as we disperse from this space. Rosie, over to you.
Thank you so much. I'm sitting in a different place in a small studio next to a playground of children, so I'm sorry about the sound. I'm a 60-year-old woman with fair hair, glasses, and a white dress on, and my pronouns are her and she. And I'm going to read something that I've just written, summing up some of the points I felt I heard. So I'm sorry, my eyes are going to look like I'm reading a document, which I haven't been able to print off. So throughout the conference, we listened to widely differing practices, and I myself in the keynote and others advocated for keeping, recognizing and supporting the diversity in the ways artists work on site and outdoors, recognizing the need for this richness and knowing that there is no one size fits all. From deeply embedded work in site and community to touring outdoor work, from very small scale to huge, large scale work. And recognizing that these very different ways of working take different levels of support and different amounts of time. And I've thought about summing up it with some headings. So firstly, I've been thinking about process. The importance of working and rehearsing on site and with community is not only beneficial for the work, but which is undoubtedly deepened and strengthened, but it's beneficial for the community, the site, and the artist in different ways. So the artist learns more about the site and community. We heard from artists saying this. They can talk about the work, they can introduce it to the general public and help with its accessibility and acceptance without compromising their artistry. They can meet their audiences face to face before the performance and forge meaningful, brief or long-lasting relationships. And the performers rehearsing there can deepen their physical engagement with the site and understand better the context that they're performing in. The site and the community then have an opportunity to learn from, to meet new people, to watch free art being made, to watch experts, to engage in any way they want to through that process. And we recognize the time it takes, and that time that's taken in that process is about respecting the community and the site. And we know that's not cheap. We heard examples of how this process being seen by a community in Egypt changed the way the communities felt about women and their place in society, because they watched a woman directing and physically moving in the same way as men. So that perhaps artists working and their method of working being seen in a community that perhaps has a different way has different societal rules, maybe their art making can actually transform an audience's perspective of their own community and their own site. And there's a positive impact in that visibility within the community for an extended length of time. And it demonstrates how we as artists and presenters and promoters value that community, and we help promote its visibility. And then when thinking about site and architecture today, I've been considering whose site it is, and this has come up a lot in all the panels. Whose site is it? Humans and non-humans. How public is that site? Has it been privatized? And how it seems like we can't unthread politics when we look at this idea of ownership and how society might be controlled and corralled, how our movement is controlled subtly. We talked about how we can reclaim sites through dancing. We heard powerfully how space should not be economized, or whatever, however you say that, only how privatized space is controlling what we're allowed to do and how we move and whether we can stop there and whether we can sit there, and even how we walk or dance down a pavement. We heard how we perceive space through our bodies, which is what I started with in the keynote speech, that our body is our world and how we encounter the world outside us. And making work for public spaces with bodies cannot but be political in some way. It's somehow subversive to retake that space with our human bodies. There was mention of placemaking that I hadn't heard of before, which is about having an agenda, private companies having an agenda to sort of soften a development, make the people like it more, and how art might be unwittingly used to do that. And that's reminded me that I must look for hidden agendas. We talked about reappropriating our surroundings through our bodies and creating a different attention to that place. Corona seems to have increased our understanding of the regulations that control our public spaces and how we need to find places and reclaim places to sit and meet and walk. How permissions are more and more problematic, particularly with private and commercial ownership. How barriers to space and barriers to what we're allowed to be might be messages of distrust. Lovely one. And we also talked a little bit about health and safety regulations, an endless topic of conversation. Then I'm turning to performance, the actual performance outside, and how it has a possibility of introducing new experiences to a community. How being outdoors in a shared space where it should be open to everyone, we might be able to consider otherness and difference more. We might be able to easily embrace it in this context. It might become more normalized. So that led to, do we take work to the people and rather than them going to it? And that seems to be something that artists really love to do. That then brings the question for programmers of, do you program what the audience wants, or do you introduce deliberately, perhaps subtly, gently, a provocation into your programming? Of course, considering the danger of whether that might be patronizing or not. We heard about the positive impact of visibility within a community for extended lengths of time, how this can demonstrate how you value a community. We heard about working with challenges and making them part of the work, and how you tour from site to site, embracing those challenges. We considered for a little while, but I think this might be another area of debate, how social media now mediates the work and how we feel about that. Something I think we could consider more. I'm sorry, I don't know how to turn my notifications off. In general, performing outdoors is felt that it's more for everyone and it feels more accessible. I know there are exceptions to that, but I think in general, that is really true. Coming to community, we heard the power of outdoor dance to bring communities together and give them a sense of belonging and renewed sense of themselves. How Carnival particularly involves, in fact, they're inundated with participants, and how the work comes from local young people who make the dances and whose involvement upskills them, and how that art form is largely ignored and seen as a party rather than as a multidisciplinary artistry. And perhaps we could consider what other forms we might be doing that to. How inspiring a community might be to an artist who embeds themselves in it and works from the people. How seeing the courage of dancers and the bravery of people dancing for a first time in public affects the participant and the viewer. And we heard about the role of a director in co-curating dances and dancers from different genres and cultures, how that brings out their creativity whilst also sharing different cultural traditional forms. And how you need to make a pitch to your participants and go to leaders in communities to enthuse them. And that comes back to time again, how much time it takes to respectfully work with community. The complex considerations of money and volunteering came up, and the fear of exploiting people, but I know that that needs more sensitive discussion and more time to unravel. And last but not least, let me come to how artists are so inspired by community and sight, and the possibilities of reaching new audiences and what it offers to them as artists. How, despite the challenges of seeking permissions, seeking participants, dealing with obstacles, resistance, weather, unforeseen circumstances, artists spoke, all of them, of a feeling of freedom, a feeling of release when they returned or worked in the outdoors, as humans and as artists. This is interesting. Somehow the confines of the indoors feels as if it might be limiting us as artists sometimes. Maybe this freedom is to do with many, many things, personal and human. The outdoors and its extraordinary surprises that what it throws at us can feel like a gift, a huge moving backdrop for the work, a new audio of birdsong, a different light, a different atmosphere. The material world around us highlights and grounds the human form in a different way to the white or black box. The human form then shows us the sight, helps us see something very familiar in a totally different way. There is a sense of aliveness for the artists here and how they adapt and play with these changes and possibilities, this beautiful happenstance word. It stops the work feeling finite. It gives us even more scope for experimentation. There is a desire to take our work into daily life rather than set it apart, into the air and the land and the daylight, into what keeps us alive as human beings. It might be that artists can make more subversive statements and bring something they really care about to a bigger audience. And finally, an art historian I spoke to recently about community described in her terms community as people coming together at a place of encounter. She mentioned cathedrals where people are inspired together, in the past that is, and now of course, but as an art historian, she was thinking of those great spaces as a place that people were inspired together, where they could share a collective moment of wonder. Personally, I think these encounters are at the heart of arts practice. And I have found working in this way, as I do outdoors, increases the range of encounters I and the work has with humans and non-humans, nature, through the process and through the performance. I think this is all the artists we heard of from over the 2 days have been addressing, that they find and create, that they can find and can create meaningful connections, meaningful encounters with the world there, placing their art at the center of the world. Handing back to Simon. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Rosie. Thank you, and thank you everyone for joining us in this online encounter. It's been an incredibly stimulating couple of days here in the Dance and the Outdoor Symposium. We've actually also really enjoyed putting this event together and working with our partners at BIDF and the place in particular. I wanted also just to extend a huge thanks to all our amazing panelists, as well as our scribe, Temujen, Elaine Dance for their great warm-up, and especially the wonderful Rosemary Lee, whose perspectives and valuable reflections have run through this event.
I'd like to finish by thanking the teams at the place, 101, BIDF, Dance 4 and XTRAX for all their hard work pulling the Outdoor Dance Collection 2021 together. Thank you to Arts Council England for their continued support. And thank you to you all for watching and for your comments and questions. Goodbye, and we look forward to seeing you in real life soon and watching Dance in the Outdoors again.